Welcome to another installment of The Final Scoop. My name is Robert Schinetsky, the supplement engineer. Joining me is our international assembly of industry insiders and Lukasz Rytkowski from Prometeus Sports Technology, Robert Samborsky, Apollon Nutrition, TJ Gonen, Fitness Deal News, and we are missing the fifth arm of our Wheel of Fortune in Shane Smith of Stack 3D. He should be joining us imminently. He's a few hours behind us in New Zealand. I think he's on the search for a ring or a quest with some hobbits or some shit. We don't know. Thoughts and prayers are with Shane. Hopefully he joins us soon. But how are you doing, gentlemen?
Yeah, good. Shane is probably having like a hobbit shake or something like that, whatever they do with hobbits there.
Or he's probably making a concoction, right now. Just
waking up his stems.
Yeah, exactly.
This place is so far away in New Zealand. It's a good excuse.
Yeah.
Lukasz, I want to start this week. We've never touched really on distribution, that facet of the supplement industry, and we've covered it. We've covered the brand side of things. We've covered retail before, but give us a little bit of insight into, what is it like to be kind of the middleman in between the brands and the consumers and the retailers? What are some of the challenges you face, or what are some of the things that really grind your gears too, as far as customer complaints or things that brands do or retailers that do that just kind of irritate you as being the facilitator of the goods?
You know what? To me, it's more than a business. To me, it's more like an interaction with brands, with clients, with customers. I treat everyone equal. So basically, to me, every partner and every client that comes to us and wants to cooperate with us needs to be treated the right way. I don't like to, categorize people as those that are like paying us 10K per month or 1K per month. It doesn't work like that for me. Mm-hmm. I like to have this equal, mutual relationship and respect to each other, and basically, that's my work ethic. I truly preach that kind of mentality, and to me it's really important, especially when we are trying to do business with new brands and new retailers and everything.
But Lukasz, from sorry to cut you off. From this, like, how was, it's actually a great topic. I didn't get ready for it, but I'm actually interested. So from what do you think, like, if I'm a brand now, right? Mm-hmm. What's the most important thing for me today in 2020, not 20 years ago, in a distribution partner? Like, what should I expect? What's the values that you're going to give me? Like, in reality though, not like on promises. What is the real value from distribution in 2020?
Yeah, I will give you
logistics. Is it marketing, branding, access? What is it?
First of all, the most important thing is where you're coming from. So if a company is based in US or if the company is based in Europe, that's the first thing,
Because you're in Europe, you're a European.
Exactly. Okay. My company is based in Netherlands, in Emmen. So to us, it's like to be honest, it's super easy to pick up a brand that is manufactured and based in Europe. That's why, for example, we partner up recently with some brands that are based in Germany, Sweden. Because for us it's super easy. The logistics are, it's not a problem to grab a product. The availability is pretty high as well.
So you're saying, Lukasz, it's easier than connecting with American brands?
There is no problem with import fees. There is no problem with taxes, with customs, those kinds of things,
Okay.
With US brands, everything is slowing down. Plus, you need to keep in mind that regulation plays a big role. It's a pain in the ass, to regulate the products. Me and Robbie talked about it many, many times. I got inquiries from brands like every week. On a daily basis, I'm getting inquiries from the new brand. Why you are not stocking us? Why you are not working with us? Because for the first thing, you need to have a demand. Without a demand, you're nothing. You can have the best brand, you can have the best marketing, you can have everything best.
And I think people miss that, right? Like,
yes.
That's why I was asking about the role of the distribution.
Yeah.
You're not going to build a brand for them. You're not
Yes.
going to build demand for them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
For example, you can have like a really good product that's going to sell in your region very well. And based on that, the demand is growing, and, people are starting to getting interest on your products. And that's why, for example, distributors that are based in Europe, then they are saying, oh, this can be a cool stuff, and maybe we will be interested in it. So that's why we're gonna take a look at their SKUs, maybe grab an offer or something like this, So based on that, we are like making steps forward. But when it comes to like, demand is the most important and the most crucial thing, to start, any discussions, Price, of course, is very important, but for us, it's like, it's always all come down to the demand,
So if we focus for a second on let's say I'm just for sake of discussion, and then we can go into other paths. But let's say I'm an American brand, just because a lot of the audience that's listening to this is probably like US people.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm an American brand, and let's say I'm a medium-sized brand or a small brand. If I'm Galambia, then fuck it, right? Like, I know what I'm doing. But I'm just starting. I'm in the US. I'm looking at Europe. I know that Europe is a big market. And so what would you say are the first three things I should do before even calling you guys?
First of all, dominate your region.
Okay, so first be successful in the US. If I'm not successful in the US, don't even call me. Okay.
Exactly. You should start with that, because if you're not like even like touching bases in your region, right, then you can't expect that like any other major distributor will be interested in your product line, because it's like TJ, in Europe you got like thousands of brands, and I mean it, like thousands of brands, and every brand offers like protein, they have the full gamut, right? Exactly, it's the full spectrum, and they can manufacture it here in Europe super cheap, and it's not going to be like any like it's not going to differ a lot with the products that are like from US. For example, I remember like back in the days, like 10 years ago maybe, when I was starting my journey with the Prometeus, we were importing like tons of protein powders from US. Why? Because people weren't like manufacturing anything from here in Europe. Anyone?
There were no European offerings. There were no
exactly. And now everything, even the US brands are now manufacturing products here in Europe, just because to cut costs, to make it quicker, to offer and also to have the bigger availability for other distributors,
Right. Okay. So you're saying first thing, I have an echo. Is it just me with the echo?
No, I can
I'm getting it on my end too.
I can hear you perfectly.
Lucas, can you give us Lucas, give us what are some of the ingredients, or I guess some of the hurdles that U.S. companies may face getting into Europe? Like, what are some of the banned ingredients that we might have over here that y'all aren't? That's not so kosher over there.
Yeah, it's not that easy, because every country has its own regulations as well, and every country has its own, like, I would say, body that protects country and also infiltrates and
even in the EU.
No, not me. But for example,
in the EU, I mean, even cross EU.
Yeah, okay. Yes. For example, in Poland we have this organization, this like the body. This is called GIS. So it's structures, and it also like monitors all the products. So before any product can be on the shelves on retailers and shops, you need to contact this organization and tell them, okay, I want to have this product in my shop. Is it possible? So they are making sure that every ingredient is valid, and then they approve it or not. So It's very hard. It takes a lot of time, and every country has this. It's different, regulations. For example, in Poland, Bohemian is banned. In some parts, betaine is also even banned. So yeah, we got some stupid, things, to cover. But yeah, I'm not gonna even touch the exotic things because those things are like banned like many years ago. Before even they were banned in US, they were already banned in EU. So yeah.
Is it easier if I'm already selling in some country? Like if I got approved in Germany, is it easier to get into Sweden, or it doesn't matter? I need to go through the process all over again.
To be honest, I think that right now maybe in UK it's easier, to regulate products and be able to sell more exotic stuff. But as far as like EU, it's strict and it's really pretty hard, to get products to, over there. Sweden and Scandinavia is like very strict, man. So they're very regulated, and it's really hard,
So there's no such thing as there's no EU, like EU approved. There's no such thing. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Even, for example, if we are importing products to EU to our warehouse that is based in Netherlands, and it goes to port that is in Netherlands, right? So it gets to customs. Customs makes all the procedures. It's accepted and it's processed. So we are getting the stuff. But still, even if the products that's gonna land to our warehouse, they'll still, after we're gonna sell them, for example, to Sweden or to other countries, they'll still need to be regulated over there.
No, it's a serious pain in the ass, because I know that it took us probably about 2 years to get to Russia, just from a point of whether things are legal or not. Because don't forget, like, no U.S. company got into Russia legally. I mean, illegally they sell everything, but illegal to get it legally and get actual certifications, it took us, I would say, about 2 or 3 years. A lot of bribing, a lot of hassle. It's true. That's the only way. And they were checking. So it's not just bribing to get us there. It's also to make sure that we meet all the requirements. Like, for example, Hooligan is 6,000 milligram of citrulline, but Russians allow only 1,000. So now our citrulline in Russia is 1,000 milligram, which we all know is ineffective. I mean, it doesn't do shit, but that's their regulations. Caffeine, you cannot go above 200 milligram. Like even things like, I think, carnitine, you can go only like 500 or 750. Just some of the very, very ridiculous things that make absolutely no sense.
It's just stuff I think they invent in order to create some
bribery. Exactly. It makes no sense. So, like, for example, Kumite, we have Pico 2. So they basically wrote back to us and they said, like, what is Pico 2? We had to explain to them what it is, but the fact that it says mushrooms, that was it was an immediate red flag, and they said you have to reformulate it. So it's just stupid shit. So I can only imagine, like, Prometeus, the shit that you guys are dealing with, the headaches are probably insane.
Yeah, sometimes even when you're like, if you're gonna change a name to an ingredient, it can also help in some parts. Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Smith has decided to grace the presence.
Welcome Sunday morning, man.
We appreciate you making the sacrifice, Shane, and showing up, and you are properly caffeinated now, sir. So it is good to see your face, however groggy it may be.
No, I stayed up until 2 again because I had some shit to do, and then my wife has to set the alarm because I need a loudspeaker to wake up. But apparently that affects the baby, which is understandable. So she has this mouse alarm that she gets up to, and then I wake up at 6:30 and she says, "Oh my God, it's too late." And I was like, "Oh, fuck." Then I messaged you guys and you're like, "We just started." I was like, "Shit, let's go. Hurry up."
Oh man, well we'll start maybe tweaking the time we start this recording or something, or we'll start giving you like some Phenibut to make sure you're asleep by 8 o'clock at night.
Oh no! I should have been up. There's no excuses. It's my
Owning
fault.
his mistake. Owning his mistake like a man. That's what we do here. So Shane, what we're talking about is we're talking about some of the distribution challenges, or what does it take for a distributor to pick up a supplement company. Lukasz was kind of walking us through that, and then where we're at now is Robbie's walking us through some of the hurdles of getting into some of the old Eastern Bloc countries.
Specifically, the price list for bribery in Russia.
Yeah. So is it like an old like is a good old boys network, Robbie, where you got to know the people to even get like a meeting to consider getting in there?
Listen, I go to the SN Pros. Actually, Shane and I talked about it. I invited him to come. They do it every year. It's like the biggest expo in Russia. It's actually, I think, Lukasz probably, if he hasn't been there, he knows about it for sure. It's like maybe third or fourth largest one in Russia, I think, after FIBO and and Body Pro. I'm pretty sure it's like one of the biggest. And you will come and you will see a lot of European brands. And but when it comes to American brands, again, don't forget, you can bring anything into Russia unofficially. Even though they're actually cracking down on that just to get like the money, like they can show up at a supplement store. If you have something that does not have certificates, it's not officially sold in Russia, what's going to happen is that you're going to get fined or they can confiscate it. So it's getting pretty strict right now. But still, you can find hooligan, you can find assassin over there, you can find all those things. It's just like they brought illegally, smuggled basically. But if you want something legal, the only companies that I know that have certificates and are selling in Russia are BSN, Universal Nutrition, Optimum Nutrition, and maybe Ultimate Nutrition still is around. But it's like literally 4 or 5 companies, and that's it. And all the companies that I just mentioned, they're very, very old companies. So all the new companies that you had in the past, I would say decade, none of them were able to get in. We started the process because obviously, I speak the language. I know some people. We started the process almost immediately after about a year of existence, and we failed miserably. There was money spent and stuff like that. And even if you do everything by the book, the answer is still going to be no, because like I said, it's a very bureaucratic and complicated thing. And about 2 years ago, I linked up with my current partner there, who is very influential. He's very well connected. He's wealthy. And then another person who's been in the industry for a while, who was hired by my partner to actually run the whole thing. He submits the certificates. He speaks English. He speaks Russian. So he's constantly communicates with us. And it took about 2 years changing the formulas to their liking, submitting everything to them directly from the manufacturer. So I used to drive our manufacturers insane because obviously they also interested. So we would buy more from them. So they were cooperating. But the whole thing, we only got certificates literally just before the pandemic started. So we finally got it. But even now, we only have maybe 4 or 5 products. It's not the entire line. So, but adding to the line is easier now. But each product is a few $1,000s. Every flavor is a few $1,000s.
And Robert, do they have like local brands there? What do they do instead of American brands? They have like protein or shit?
They have local brands, but if you test them, you're not going to be very happy. I mean, it's just like mostly the semi-decent brands that they get, again, Lukasz knows about these brands. They get mostly like Polish brands. They get Hungarian brands. Those are okay. They're fine. Like Amix is there, Genetic Lab or whatever the fuck it's called. So they have a couple of those brands. But like, I'll give you a perfect example, and this is going to be very funny. So about 2 years ago, I traveled to Russia, and I have quite a few friends there. And one of the companies that does a lot of distribution throughout Russia, the owner is a good friend of mine. So he respects me a lot, and he asked me to come to dinner. And another person joined us who was he was the owner of a local Russian brand that was manufacturing just outside Moscow. So we had dinner, and the guy was trying to sell also his products to my friend. So after dinner was over, the owner of the distribution company, he goes to me, "Is there any way you can test the product for me in United States?" I said, "Well, I can ask, one of the manufacturers just to test it out." I said, "Why? What's up?" So he gives me 2 bottles of liquid carnitine. made by the other guy. He goes, can you take it with you? And he just try it. Let me know if it actually contains what it's supposed to contain, because I don't trust these guys. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. So I took the container, brought it back here, and one of them was apple flavor and the other one was pineapple. And, those of you that tried our pineapple Enigma, I mean, it tastes phenomenal. This one was, This one was just as good. 100%. It was excellent flavor. I tried it. The color was spot on. It looked exactly like pineapple. Tasted phenomenal. And that was before we released ours. So it was 2 years ago. So I was like, I never had a better pineapple in my entire life. This is just like, I'm impressed. So I called them up and I said, like, whoa, this shit is amazing. I don't know what it contains, but the flavor is like right on point. It's like the best probably product I've ever tasted. Long story short, maybe 2 or 3 days later, I decided, I'll have another, shot just before my cardio. I opened the bottle and I pour it in a glass, and it's completely different color. I mean, we're talking like from yellow, like pineapple color, it looks like dirt. It's just like I've never seen anything like that in my life. It looked like it was brown dirt. It was just like unbelievable. So I called them up and I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, are you supposed to refrigerate it? Like, I don't know, because it doesn't say on the bottle. I took it to my manufacturer, and it was supposed to be L-carnitine, about 3,000 milligram per serving or something like that. Manufacturer called me about it, a day or two later. And I was like, what is it? He goes to me, there is carnitine in it. He says, but less than 200 milligram.
Nice.
Wait, did you try the dirt color though? Does it still taste good?
Yeah, I did. It tasted still pretty good, but it tasted a little bit more like, like spoiled milk. Like there was a hint of a bit of a sourness to it. So it did taste like pineapple, but it definitely changed slightly. And it only
I was going to say,
2 days.
because if it was a supplement that legit changed color every time you tried it, I tell you what, they're on
That's a
something.
market.
That's fucking cool.
It was insane.
So if I had like a red pre-workout, then like a green pre-workout, I tell you what, that's fucking genius. I don't know how you do it.
Why did you try it when it looked like shit?
I just wanted to try it anyway.
I wanted to try it.
I wanted to try it. Yeah. The Apple one I didn't even try. That was enough. That was like, you know what, I'm not taking the risk. But the thing is like there is no regulations. There is nothing, they do whatever. And, when you go there to the expo, you see some stuff that you won't believe. Like, for example, I was with Marina about 3 or 4 years ago, and I ran across an amino container. And on the container itself, it says made in USA. I don't remember what company it was or whatever, but I remember the label was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful labels I have ever seen. I actually, I asked, obviously I speak Russian, so I asked them, I was like, what is this? Because I asked as if I am a consumer. They like, oh, this is one of the hottest brands in the United States. Now, keep in mind, they don't know where I'm from and who I am. So I'm like, I've never even heard of this shit. So they like, it's the hottest shit, like the hottest thing in America. It's like the best ever. I actually bought the container. The amino container was, I don't remember how many servings, but it was pretty big container. I think I paid for it about $10. That's all it was, maybe $10. I bought it. I was searching online. I was looking everywhere. That company just does not exist. Like not in US, nowhere.
They sold out.
Probably
doing a promo or something.
Yeah.
Or it was water.
Buy one, get one free.
It was incredible. So like I said, there is no regulations. There is nothing. You can pretty much get away with a lot of shit. So I think that right now they're trying to crack down on it a little bit and try to regulate. So that's why you see more European brands. Like I know My Protein is huge in Russia. It's like, Kevin Levroni's, which is not Kevin Levroni, but a Polish brand. They very, very, very popular in Russia. At least they were. They were all over the place. Amex is at least was a year ago. It was also pretty popular. And then there was a company that, Lukasz, I asked you recently. I forgot the name. But it was... Yes, that company is hot. That's Polish, right?
Yeah, this is Polish.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Very, very popular. Ostrovit. Ostrovit.
Yeah, Ostrovit, very, very popular.
I know that Levrone series. That's like in Eastern Europe, he's like
It's huge.
I see them do it all the time when he's like in Bulgaria, and Russia. He goes to like these random expos and he's got like just lines and lines of people and we sold out in so many days, and I'm like, shit, man. And you won't find a damn speck of that in America. But
yeah, I mean, it's listen, I mean, he makes money, good for him, but I know that the brand is very, very popular in Russia.
Have you seen the product though?
I've seen this actually. They have like 100 of them.
They're not too bad. They're actually like, they started out kind of meh, but then like over the years they've actually rebranded it, I would say every 1.5 2 years, and they've just gotten better each time. And they're not,
and actually the look and feel looks nice. Like the look and feel,
the latest line, nice. the white and gold, it's pretty damn good. Nice. They've done a good job.
I think it's what Lukasz was mentioning before you joined. It's because it's so hard for so many other brands to get into the space. So when you come from the US, you're a big name in the space, you can get actually traction, where it's going to be way harder in the US to get the same amount of traction.
I said this to so many brands, like guys that are in, big brands that are from like European countries, Australia, other parts of the world. I've said to them, I said, like, that's why I like traveling so much, is you'll go to a country like Extra Fit. Extra Fit is a prime example from
Czech Republic.
And like, you wouldn't have heard a damn word about these guys. You wouldn't have come across them ever. But if you go to like every damn mall in the Czech Republic, they've got their own store like a damn GNC. And like, they are just crazy popular. Same with Bomba. Bomba in Russia.
Bomba's huge.
Is so like, you look at their interaction on Instagram, it blows. I would say like I'm not talking like 10, I'm talking thousands of comments and likes every single picture.
I don't think anyone has more flavors than they do. It's insane.
Yes, but it's like you find these brands and you wouldn't have ever come across them and you don't understand them. But in their own countries, in their own parts of the world, they just light it up. And I've talked to them and they said, how do we get into the US? I'm like, look, bro, if too much of your country like your brand appeals to them, you're probably not going to be able to sell their world to an American brand, and vice versa. An American brand may not appeal to a country where Bomba dominates or Olymp dominates. But it's some brands are just built so well for their audience. It's unbelievable, and you would just never have heard of them unless you actually went there.
Yeah, but the reality is like some of those popular European brands. Why would they come to the United States? They're doing phenomenal in their own regions. Stay there. I mean, it's not like, years ago, I think that every brand wanted to come to and conquer America. I think these days it's not needed. You don't need to come here. You're good where you are. I mean, Levroni is American. I know that the company is owned by a Polish guy, but they're doing so well in Europe. Now to come here, market and compete and stuff like that. And let's face it, the American bodybuilders are not exactly American bodybuilders.
Them gains.
American bodybuilders that own brands in the United States, none of them, and I mean none of them, are doing phenomenal. None of them reach the same status as Gaspari used to have or Labrada. Phil Heath, you won't find it anywhere. Kai Green, the same. Who else? I mean, I think Ronnie Coleman to an extent, but still not like super, super hot here. So if Levroni's line is hot in Eastern Europe, I'm pretty sure they sell so much. I don't see a reason for them to spend marketing money and all that and to come to United States. I think it's going to be a waste. I mean, not.
I think it's like a FOMO thing, right? Like, yeah. Like, it's almost like you go to the gym and the maximum dumbbell's like, 100 pounds. And you just keep smacking out that 100 pounds. But you've heard these 200-pound dumbbells. So, like, they want to go try out the American market because they hear Quest sells for $1 billion. And so-and-so does this. And you're just sitting here, like, killing your market. You're like, maybe I could give it a shot. Like, some of these Olymp, perfect example. Yeah. Makes so much money, just kills it. A lot of the European countries, Poland, of course. But, and they've taken several big cracks at the US market, hitting the Olympia. I mean, sorry, I think it was last year was the Arnold, and they've taken several tries and tried to make a bigger splash as they can, and they probably will keep doing it. My Protein was the same, so I mean, it's just one of those things, I guess. Why not give it a try?
Yeah,
Robbie, with
getting
into Russia, you said there's limits on, so like only 200 milligrams of caffeine per scoop, a gram of citrulline per scoop. So in order to get an efficacious dose of citrulline, let's just say the baseline. I mean, there's some studies showing 2.4 grams for endurance exercise, but most people will say 3 grams as like just the baseline of that. So are people doing like 60, 40, 20 servings or something like that, where you have to like triple scoop to get so is the scoop limit like you can only have 1 gram of citrulline and 200 milligrams of caffeine per scoop, or is it, so I'm just wondering, how could you get efficacious dosage of that, or would you just switch and do something like a nitrosogene where it's only like 1.5 grams, which is going to be equivalent to 6 grams of citrulline malate?
I'm actually looking right now for the Russian formula. I'll find it in a second, but I don't think it works that way. I understand what you're trying to say, but you're talking about how much citrulline is needed, and I think Lukasz actually mentioned it yesterday also in our text messages, where he said, what, we know, but a lot of people don't, because we are in an industry. I mean, don't forget, me owning the brand for now, at least I won't mention any names, but we know shitload of companies, and I want probably 80 or 90%, they're underdosing shit, and it's still very, very popular on the market. It's because of the marketing or branding or whatever the fuck it is, so the thing is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah, some people will take 2 or 3 scoops maybe of Hooligan in Russia, but on the other hand, there are people who will not. They will think, oh, okay, this is good. And, what is unfortunate, however, is that once you hear the Russian formula of Hooligan, it's a decent formula. It's a decent formula, definitely. But is it up to what you expect from Hooligan? Like, I would not send this formula to TJ. I'd be actually scared. Because he, it wouldn't get rave reviews. But the thing is like, here I have it. So the Russian formula of Hooligan is creatine monohydrate, 5 grams. Arginine, because we couldn't fucking use citrulline. Arginine is 3,000 milligrams, because some people still love arginine, even though, well, you know the deal.
Popular ingredient.
Yeah, beta-alanine is 2,400 milligrams. Betaine, 1,500. Glycerol powder, only 1,000 milligram allowed, so it's 1,000. Taurine, 1,000. Tyrosine, not allowed more than 750, so I maxed out, it's 750. Citrulline, I made a mistake, it's not 1,000, it's actually only 500 milligram allowed. So 500 milligram of citrulline. Choline, 500, and caffeine is 200. So if you look at it, compared to 90% what's on the market, it's actually not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's okay, Yeah. But when you compare it to Apollon Hooligan in United States, I mean the real Hooligan, then we have definitely a serious problem. I mean, because it's not what we do. So I talked to Lukasz about it. Apollon popularity is growing. I mean, he found out about us, so that says something. But the thing is, for us to get into Prometeus or something like that, Lukasz and I had this discussion. I'm not one of those brands who's going to go like, I want to be, I want Prometeus to buy our brand, because we talked about it. It's probably possible, and we're probably heading in that direction, but we are still far away from it, because we still growing here. We're growing the hype and stuff like that. But once we get there, to even discussion of it, I'll probably have to fly to Lukasz. We're going to have to sit down, and we're going to have to work on formulas so they compliant with whatever is allowed in Europe. Yeah. Otherwise, we can have a #1 brand, but it's not going to do shit in Europe. So it's kind of like the situation where it is what it is.
Yeah. Does it make sense to manufacture over there, or keep manufacturing here and just pay the shipping to go over there?
I think manufacturing there would probably cut the cost a lot. It's just the investment itself, or you would need to look probably for reliable partners or something like that.
Kind of like Australia and New Zealand, the limit on caffeine is 325. I don't know if New Zealand's
alpha yohimbe is not allowed, I think, right?
No, yohimbe is not really allowed anywhere outside of North America.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not even in Canada. It's
not even in Canada. So that changes a lot of things.
But I'm pretty sure last time I checked, and this is like a decade ago. So no, in New Zealand it hasn't changed. Vitamin B12 was like a limit of 50 micrograms. You had just all these stupid ass laws, but
that make absolutely no sense.
But like, you know, it's a law. But it's kind of like Brazil. Brazil, I don't know if you know about this market, but like you look at some of the products and you think that they're shit. It is not their fault. Like
they're just not allowed to.
Simply can't.
Some of them, like you can use caffeine, but it has to be by itself. You can use what's the other one they can do? You can use caffeine and carnitine, I think it is. I'm not sure about it, but they have legal things on specific combinations and specific ingredients. So you're about to use carnitine by itself, you're about to use creatine by itself, you're about to use caffeine by itself, but you couldn't necessarily use all three together. And so they have like, it's just when the guy was explaining it to me like 2 years ago or something, I was asking him, and when you hear all these rules, you're like, shit. So like, you know, when they do a 250 milligram pre-workout and then they do a 300 milligram pre-workout and then a 350, to me, and that caffeine's the only ingredient, to me that sounds stupid. But then you realize that 350 milligram pre-workout, that's like fucking the C4 dynasty to the C4 extreme. It's like you know, that's the crowd goes wild kind of thing. And then they put creatine in there. And that's why they have carbs as well. Some of them have like an extra 10 or something. I mean, it's not much, but again, it's to them, it's just, and some of the American brands you see in there, they take the same approach. It'll be a known product, but it'll just be caffeine. That's all that's in there. So, and then their fat burner will be the same thing, same dose of caffeine, but in capsules. Completely different marketing, but same thing. And it's just crazy. I mean, you feel bad, but it's just down to the country, really.
Yeah, the laws have neutered the companies from being able to really do anything.
Yeah, but when you talk to them, like they'll be like, "Yeah, check out this latest pre-workout," and I'm like, "This looks like nothing." But they're just so like full months of marketing, money's gone into this hype, but you'll never get it. But you need to understand it, because if you're going to try and talk about and promote a Brazilian brand, you need to understand that this is the real deal for them, and that's why. We take a lot of time to talk to these guys. Specifically, Brazil is a hard one to wrap your head around.
Yeah. Well, how do you approach that from the content standpoint when you're going to discuss a brand on the site? You know, because you know the initial kickback reaction from the American consumer. I'm not sure. I would assume, I guess, most of your readership is probably in the States, because I guess that's where most of the supplement sales are. But you probably have a large European.
It's like
readership
60% American, I think.
Okay. Well, I guess when you're doing that, how do you go about getting your mind right? Because the initial kickback from some of the American readers is going to be, oh, well, this formula is dog shit. But as you just said, they don't know that the Brazilian laws are neutering. The companies are holding back from really being able to push something that's going to be on the same dosing level as what they would see in an American or European product.
I think you have to, I always write it relative to what they know. Like, I'm not going to say, this has got creatine and caffeine. I'm not going to be like, but this is pre-workouts that have creatine, caffeine, citrulline, blah, 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 blah.
No.
What I'll say is like, so-and-so has another pre-workout that's 250 milligrams of caffeine. This was 300. So expect a little more energy. So if someone from Brazil comes to this and reads it, they're only going to understand the things in there. They're not going to be connecting it to other stuff. And they won't need to. So they're about to read it and be like, okay, cool. They've got a new pre-workout. It's going to be high energy. I'm not going to like shit on them for it, because again, it's just one of those things. You need to understand that to some extent. But then when they bring it to America, which some brands have, you need to understand. Like, and it's kind of like a wake up call. But when they bring that stuff to the US and that's kind of when it's like you should have done your research. And some brands learn that the hard way, some, but we try and keep it relative to the topic. I don't want people getting confused if they've, opened them up to a world that they don't actually or can't actually access.
Right. And I guess let's bring this back full circle to where we initially started with distribution. And I'll get, since we've all got kind of different perspectives in the industry, do you think it makes sense so we for a while we talked about brick and mortar going the way of the dinosaurs and it was extinct. And then, distribution is kind of the middleman. Do you think it makes sense nowadays for brands to even work with distributors, or should they just go straight to the stores and like do their own online sales? Does it make sense to have that middleman in there anymore?
Or go directly to consumer, right?
Right. Yeah. Just, if they are going to go brick and mortar, should they just work with the stores directly and not worry about cut out the middleman? So like, Lukasz, how do you see that? And then we can kind of go around the panel.
Well, you know what? It depends on the model of your company and what you are trying to do. We all know some brands that are doing very well with the direct, consumer relationship, like, for example, Morphogen, which was like mentioned many times. I have huge respect for Ben and what he's trying to offer, for his customers. And I truly respect also his approach, to business and to working, directly with the consumer, So from my standpoint, I respect, every party and what everyone's trying to do, From my perspective, like I said, regulations plays a huge role, and it's a pain in the ass for many brands. For example, if they are like based in US and they're coming to Europe, to EU, they need to, have this mindset that they will have to reformulate at some point, because in some region their products won't be valid, So that is what I wanted to touch on. But as far as like this this business, as far as like working directly with the distributor or selling stuff to retailers, I think it all comes down to brand and it's preferences. So yeah.
Okay. Robbie?
I think that everything that Lukasz said, I 100% agree. I mean, right now for any company, I speak from my own perspective. If I would to go to Europe, like specifically EU, not working with somebody like Prometeus, I think would be just stupid, because they know the local laws, they know the local regulations, they know what works, what doesn't. I think that for a brand to go into EU, where you have so many countries with different laws, with different perspectives and stuff like that, it's almost impossible, and would just be, I think you would spend more resources doing that than partnering with somebody who has a strong distribution throughout Europe, and you can learn a lot from them, and you can maybe come up with a plan where it's something that will work for all the countries, and it's going to be distributed by one distributor. I think it's going to save you a lot of time. I think it's going to save you a lot of headache. I also think that it's going to save you a lot of money, because on the other hand, if you have something in the United States, like what Lukasz said specifically about direct to consumer, I agree and disagree to a certain extent where it comes to certain companies, and especially companies like Apollon, companies like Morphogen, companies that are slightly smaller, but at the same time very effective, like effective in terms of what they produce very good product. And here's where I disagree. I disagree because again, speaking from Apollon's perspective, we have our niche. We have our niche market. And that's the same niche that Apollon Gym comes from. Apollon Gym was known as a hardcore gym specifically for bodybuilders, specifically for powerlifters. We had our niche and we were kind of proud. Hey, we are hardcore. All of you suck. You are shit. We are good. I mean, it's kind of the same mentality that Apollon Nutrition had when, we touched upon this in our...
You're just an angry person.
In the last episode. And actually, my members, they used to go, like, if somebody came to the gym and is not hardcore, doesn't train hard, or doesn't have a certain look, they would feel like an outcast. Like, there were people who were afraid to come to Apollon Gym.
They know who they are.
Yeah, true. It had a very, very bad reputation as a meathead gym. I changed that where we had a bodybuilder years ago who was getting ready for a bodybuilding show, and he was using a certain machine, and another person who who just was an average Joe, an older individual, jumped into the machine who was doing it. So the bodybuilder had like a whole fit. He was like so pissed. What the fuck is this guy doing in my gym? Why is he training? Why is he taking my machine? I'm training for a bodybuilding show. So it was a typical meathead approach that I had to step in and like, guys, we have to stop this shit because it's not a bodybuilder's gym. It's not a powerlifting gym. It's just a gym, meaning we have to welcome anyone. We didn't have any women at the gym. There was like 2 women that would come to work out. Right now, it's a different perspective. Like you can come. You could see like people from all walks of life training, and basically like it grew phenomenally, like to thousands of members. It's a completely different gym. And Robert, you've been there, you've seen like people come from all walks of life. The same thing I think has to be applied to a brand like Apollon, like those niche sort of brands, because let's face it, something like, I don't know, like Chains or Protein or something like that. Who says that it's only for athletes? Who says that it's only for bodybuilders? I think by doing that, we're limiting what we potentially could do in terms of like, delivering a quality product to everyone. So if we have a certain niche market and those followers are buying Apollon, but we are completely disregarding, the wider audience, why can't we go after the same customers that, I don't know, First Form has or BSN or any of those products? But where it comes down to somebody like maybe, our own marketing. So we are responsible to deliver that message. Hey guys, we're not just good for meatheads. We're actually good for everybody. Then you have somebody like TJ who is doing reviews, just kind of to elaborate on that message. Like, listen, this product is not just for, guys on juice. This product is actually good for everybody. So we have to grow that. And that's direct to consumer, not just be, we have our niche following, let's just stick to that. I think we can go wider. And as for distribution in the United States to brick and mortar, it's challenging because you have to sell direct to the consumer, but at the price that brick and mortar are not going to be pissed off. And then you have somebody like DPS who are selling slightly cheaper and they're more aggressive with their prices. We actually talked about it this morning with DJ, but you have to balance it. And I think that's where it becomes a trick. And there were on occasion times where, I fucked up by not having that balance. And, we already discussed with TJ how that can be fixed, not pissing off the, our partner stores, not pissing off somebody like DPS, who's a great partner, and at the same time, having the ability to go direct to consumer. So that is very, very fine. I personally, I don't know if this is going to be politically correct saying that because
the rest of this discussion was totally politically correct so far. Yeah, don't
shut
ruin
up.
Don't
You need to exercise and make some effort to be useful to the industry. So no comments from you.
Yeah, what's that? 15 minutes. There you go. 15 minutes in. That's not bad.
Shane, what's your opinion on distribution? Is it going the way of the dinosaurs, or is it still a vital cog in this supplement industry?
Talk to me about distribution, Shane. Talk to me.
Distribution is very much my passion.
Shane knows it all.
Okay, so okay. My thoughts on it is yeah,
it's amazing.
Kind of half what Lukasz said, half what Robert said. Like, I think every company starts how it starts, right? Like, ideally, right out of the gate, you want to just have nobody in your company, and Prometeus comes along. It's like, I love your shit. We'll distribute Europe, nutrition systems in Australia, someone in the Middle East, someone in Asia, and like they just pick you up one after one. And you don't hire a single person. You may bring on like a marketing team and then a formulator. That's like probably the ideal way, right? And then you have a direct to consumer, but that's not really how it ever works. Like, you build your brand however you do, and that may be going to brick and mortar only, and that's no one ever knows you, and then you're all over these brick and mortar retailers. You can't cut that out, so you have to stay with the brick and mortar retailers because that's how you built. So then you're probably never going to want to get a domestic distributor, right? That's just kind of, and you never want to go to maybe a major chain and then cut out all the guys that you just built your brand on, kind of thing. And vice versa, you might start out just being direct consumer only, and that's how you built your reputation, and that's how you grew your popularity in the US. And in that model, you're probably never going to want to go to brick and mortar because you just spent 5 years building your direct to consumer. But international, I don't think that distributors will ever disappear internationally, purely because no one's ever going to build their reputation by going to individual brick and mortar stores outside of their own country. It just never works.
Yeah.
So you need,
it's probably impossible to achieve.
Yeah, it'd be impossible. Like you would be going.
It's possible, but
it's possible. But like if let's say you're a store in, I don't know, Bulgaria, maybe then you could travel across the European countries. But like I'm talking companies outside of the continent, so America, Canada, Australia. Like you would never build a reputation outside your own country. It'd be impossible. But once you build up in your own country, that's when you'd be like, hey, Prometeus, and then they can just handle everything in Europe, because you don't want to go through all the shit you just did in a completely other continent that you don't even know. And I mean, on that note, I think the international distributors will always be needed. Domestic, probably not so much, but like internationals are just extremely important. But I mean, it can work either way. Like Optimum, they don't have international. Some of them, they have people that handle sales in each individual country. But then you have the other way around. You have people that only partner with international. Ghost as well. They do great direct to consumer, but they distribute through nutrition systems in Australia. So no matter which way you build it, I think that the big brands have shown that international distributors are still very much necessary. I'm pretty sure Optimum does have. I remember they used to go through a distributor in Australia and New Zealand, and now they switched to just doing it themselves. I don't know if it's changed or something, but when you get too big, you can just fucking fuck it, do it yourself kind of thing. Screw the distributor. But then in this day and age, where I think companies are trying to build themselves efficiently, trying to build themselves, as efficiently as possible, distributor makes sense, right? Like you got a 5-man band, you could take over Europe by just partnering with the distributor.
I think that's going to go away also, by the way. In the US specifically, not international, I agree with you. In the US, with time, everything takes time. Nothing happens in like 2 minutes. But
yeah, domestic distributors.
Yeah, domestic, because there's so many technology advances right now that are happening that, I mean, you could close your eyes and imagine a future where a store goes online, there's a white label portal, they go in, they order something in the background that happens, Uber style, that comes, picks up, drops at that store, and you're done. Why do you need someone in the middle to take 10, 15, 20%?
Yeah, see, I think domestic,
totally automate that process.
International, I think is international be the one that stays. Well, I feel.
I know that Europa, for example, who is like a huge distributor in the United States, I know from talking to brands and talking to people from within the industry, they're not as powerful as they used to be. I know that I think Evogen has left them, and they're doing their own distribution throughout the United States. As far as I know, Betancourt is also either breaking up with them or something like that. They're definitely pulling. I know there are a couple of brands who are not, I mean, I remember like only a few years ago, being with Europa was the ultimate goal for every company.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be with Europa. But right now, brands are doing it on their own. And it actually makes sense, because if you think about it, pretty much every company, most companies, the ones who don't sell only direct to consumer, but most companies have sales reps. So, those sales reps are more than capable of going to brick and mortar stores, making the same phone calls, eliminating the middlemen being Europa, where they're losing money. And they have, I've seen some of the contracts and agreements. And, obviously Europa is doing very well in protecting themselves and their own interests. But, you make barely any money, especially if you're making, good stuff. Because obviously they're only interested in margins. So when you have a pre-workout that costs $3-4 and you have a pre-workout that costs $7, $8, or $10, there's a huge difference. And all they're interested is definitely, margins. So it makes absolutely no sense to go through them, in my opinion. If you have at least somewhat of a name, you can just go direct. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. For certain companies, I think it still can work to an extent. But, I think that the model is definitely changing and we need to evolve with times. We cannot be stuck in the same place.
I think it's a matter of time because, I always under the understanding that the internet brings you, like, instead of being around the world, it brings you into the same room. Like, legitimately, like 20 years ago, I want to have a business meeting with someone in Russia. You would have to, like, probably jump on some sort of boardroom bloody intercom and it would be hazy as shit. Now you can talk, you can see, you can have information sent to you. So the internet brings you closer. So the fact that you like a boots on the ground distributor in your own country is kind of a bit dated because you have the states aren't separated. They're all in the one room. They're all in your hand in the internet. So that's why I say international, I think, is a must because it's a little bit different because in the US, you all know your laws. You all know the rules. If it can be on one shelf, it could be on the other. But when it comes to international...
Sorry to interrupt you guys. Can I say one thing? Because, for example, in my company, we've got like many sales manager, and every sales manager represents different region, different country from in Europe. So basically, for example, I'm representing Poland. So I would call it an expert when it comes to my region because I know basically every biggest partner, biggest retailer from smaller to big distributor even, So if, for example, a brand approaches me, I can tell them straight away, this client can be a good fit for you and this doesn't. So that's how it works, as far as like international distribution. So keep that in mind, that especially in my company, in Prometeus, we have, a different person for a different country. So everyone, makes this unique, I would say, decisions. So
that's why I think international, you always, you would always need them just because you have that understanding. Like, again, in America, one state's no different from the next in terms of regulations, so you should be able just to do it yourself kind of thing and connect digitally because that's what the internet does. It brings everyone close. But outside of that, you need those rules, right? You don't want to ship your product to a country and get it burned because it can never be sold there. So you need these people like Prometeus who, Europe's probably, I would think, while Brazil's strict, Europe is probably the hardest. You have, more countries in a smaller space than, I'm pretty sure it's probably about the same size as America, but you have, 30 different countries? Everyone has its own individual laws. So for that instance, you would need, because I know Italy has different laws in terms of promotion and lingo and all that stuff. And then you have other countries that, like Germany, that are like hardcore. So it's all hugely different. And you need those professionals, especially when not only are the laws different, but the language is completely different.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I guess here's how I guess I want to, another way we could tackle it. And if you wanted to bypass the distribution, what's to stop somebody from Europe ordering a product from a US website if the US company is willing to ship it to them? Is there any barrier to that? Like, say agmatine and yohimbine are banned in Europe.
Customs.
Well, is customs going to look at the tub and say, "Oh, that ingredient's banned in my country"? If you put it in a box, do they open up the box?
In Australia, and New Zealand, they burn it. They take it from you and they send it to you. No, for us, if it comes here, Like,
even if it's one tub.
Even if it's one tub,
Yeah.
they'll give you a letter and they'll tell you why they took it out, and they'll burn it, and then like it's.
But how would they know what's in the? How would they know it's in the box? Unless I guess is there a shipping manifest that says what is it?
Bro,
What's every ingredient in there?
No, it's random. It's absolutely random. They can just decide to open it.
When you ship international, you have to put what's on. Like, you have to say what category, whether it be health supplements. You have to give a brief description. Yeah. Energy drink, protein powder. Let's put it this way. I've had products that came in with Yohimbe and just taken straight away, and then they sent me the box without that product in it. I've had protein powder. My last 4 shipments of protein powder from the last 3-4 months have all been opened, have all had the labels looked at them. Everything was unpacked, everything was read through, and then they would forward it on to me. And one of those packages came from Australia, and we have friendly rules, like same rules. So like theoretically, you wouldn't have expected it, but that's the same in every country. Especially, I would expect, especially Asia. I would feel like you in the UK as well. I got some protein powder from the US when I was in the UK, and they took it off me because you had to have some. I assume they didn't explain the rules, but I assume you have to be like a registered, because it's dairy, and there's a lot of farming industry in the UK. I assume you would have had to sign up and register some sort of process per brand, but because I tried to bring it in by myself, they didn't even give me room to explain. They just took it and said they burned it, and I was like, "That's great," but you live and learn. But outside of America, that's the thing, though. The rules are so different, and no distributor is going to want to bring in thousands of dollars just because they think that customs might not look at it. I mean, it's just way too big. Lukasz will know all about it, and I would think a customer could. But then again, a customer will be buying direct to consumer and paying shipping on that one product. That's why distribution wins international, because they bring in 10,000 units at a wholesale price and give it to you at your local store for the same price. Theoretically, that's the goal.
Yeah. Now, Shane, here's a question like that probably going to hit on both aspects. Say the company is a U.S. company that is direct-to-consumer company, mainly it's direct-to-consumer, and that's all they do. But the company gets rather popular and wants to enter into, Europe or Australia or New Zealand or whatever. They cannot basically, it would be foolish and probably close to impossible to apply the same direct-to-consumer strategy, even if they could, mail.
I think
they would still need probably Prometeus or something.
I would think that's like Ghost proved that. Ghost is a very modern, very forward-thinking brand. No matter which side you're on, they've taken on the market and the industry in a very smart way. They went direct to consumer. I believe they use they have a warehouse in Europe, the UK, that ships their stuff for them. So clearly, it's a developed market, developed country, so they have that available to them. They didn't do that in Australia. There are stores with them. There are stores that carry them in the UK. So for a company that would be one of the most modern and the most strategic in the industry, they see fit to still use, or very much use, an international distributor in Australia, and that makes sense. Because you run into a lot of issues. I'm not sure what the rules are in every country, but I feel like if you're selling things, direct to consumer from a warehouse, I'm pretty sure that would bring you as, selling product from your location in a country could bring you into tax reasons. So you might have to pay tax in that certain country too, because you're selling it to a consumer on that market, like as if you were actually a store. Yeah. So I know America's like that. Like if you're selling stuff on their grounds rather than shipping it into the consumer, that's kind of probably the same as being a store. So theoretically, you should pay tax, kind of thing. So, and all these things, I have to imagine, just complicate the shit out of it. And you don't want to hire a guy to do this and a guy to do that. Whereas you could just hire a distributor and maybe work out the margins to make sense, and then they take care of it all. And you get to keep, your small, lean team and focus more on marketing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But again, Ghost was huge direct-to-consumer and GNC in the US. And for them to go, again, they partner with Nutrition Systems, and they have several stores in Australia and New Zealand. So you have to imagine that, and they would have tried to go about it. I imagine they would have tried the same strategy they did in the UK, where they, ship from a warehouse. Wouldn't be nice, would have made sense, but obviously they didn't. So I think that the smaller market you get, you're not going to be able to do those cool, efficient things that you do in the UK, but it'll still be very much worth it to get into that country and utilize a more specific model like a distributor. But countries, I guess UK is like sort of like a small America, like very developed, very economic, very efficient. So they have those things in place. But you can't expect the same processes in America and the UK to be available in Poland, in Germany, and tiny countries that you could still make a shit ton of money. Like Olymp proves time and time again, they make a lot of money. But, to think that country would have the same things in place for an American company to come and distribute and so on would just be crazy. So I think that's why I say domestic, I can understand, might just go by the wayside a bit, just because it's, again, the internet brings everyone to the same room. But European international distributors, I feel like they're just going to be needed, just because it's the same when you ask an American company about China, they'll get into China, but they won't know a single thing about it because it's like, it's so foreign. But they'll have a guy in there, and that's what you want. You want someone who partners with you, who just knows the shit, takes care of it, knows what to do, knows not what to do. And I mean, if you had to get an employee to take care of every country, that's 200 and something bloody people, and they need to speak the language. And to expect those people to work for you would just be, it'd be a headache. That's why, again, Prometeus, genius, having, just the people who can take care of every country, who can understand it. I don't want to say like the professionals, like just because that might make professional companies feel like bad, but the guys who know their shit, and that's why they're known for what they are. But again, I'm not too sure on like domestic distribution, because again, it's no state's different from the next kind of thing.
Now, we were talking about Europe, that they, each country has different laws and shit like that. Now, are there like one distributor that covers, since they're so similar, one distributor that covers both Australia and New Zealand, or you still would have to go separately?
Yeah, no. You have, it's like there's pretty much rules that if you bring it into Australia, you can throw it across to New Zealand. Basically, if it gets in one, theoretically, it should get into the other. But New Zealand's just like, it's like 5 million people. But we get a lot of things tested in our country because it's such a diverse but compact market. Like our biggest city has probably just 1/3 of the population. So when you put something in here, and because it's so multicultural, so like developed, it's a good testing ground for shit, right? And so it's a market well worth getting in. But to think that you would have anything like I said, like in the UK, that could drop ship and all that stuff, you'd be dreaming. It'd be waste of time. Like Amazon came to Australia, they built a warehouse, but I don't think it was, they were saying like a lost leader type thing. There was probably years before they did. But that's never going to make it to New Zealand. So, but yeah, we have distributors. The biggest one, Nutrition Systems, distributes across both. Most like to do both. But the thing is like if you say, I don't know if you see MuscleTech's new protein powder, you'll look online, you'll find the distributor that forwards you. Both can take care, but they're almost always Australian based.
TJ, is Israel different? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I said, you've got family
I left
in Israel
so long ago. I left Israel like 11 years ago.
But you still go back there frequently, and you have family over there. So can you give us some insight into what like the supplement scene and like I guess the training and fitness scene is in Israel?
No, it's very much behind. Honestly, it's like
really?
The US. Yeah, fitness is very different. I mean, there's a gym culture, but it's not very well developed. And supplements is very much, and just like in the last couple of years. By the way, the regulation sounds as crazy as in Poland or stuff like that. It's very hard to get anything in, Agnitine, whatever. It's just crazy. And as far as the gym culture, it's interesting. Like there's definitely fitness awareness, but you would find way more people running and biking than going to the gym, right? And so biking is huge, mountain biking, road biking, stuff like that, bicycle. Running is huge. I would say running and biking are bigger than people going to the gym, which is
still think for the average, even for the average American, they think like if you ask them what's the best form of exercise, they're going to say running, but it's not really running, it's jogging. I mean, if you're running, you're sprinting like Tom Cruise style in Mission Impossible movies, and that's running. But the average fitness person has it in their idea that jogging is the healthiest and best thing to do for your body. And I'm wondering, how did all of that ever get started, and what is it going to take to kind of like break that from the collective consciousness?
Right? You talked about it with Sandy. I heard you guys talking
a little bit, yeah. But I want to get you guys have been in fitness much longer than Sandy has, so I want to get your insight too.
I can tell you this from a fighting perspective. Like if you go back to like watching Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali and stuff like that, and you would always see the old video clips of them running. I mean, even the term road work that associated with people running 5, 10, 15 miles. I mean, that was like, but everything in life evolves, and it evolves, like the trading evolves, and everything evolves. So I can tell you this, like right now, running, I mean, people still, like the fighters still run for cardio, for fitness, but you'll be surprised, not as much. Actually, that's been cut down, and I know that I tested it on myself. That's been actually cut down a lot. So in terms of a fitness, in terms of like people specifically running for a purpose, like fighting, conditioning, and stuff like that, I'm not talking about those that just enjoy running, because you still have a lot of those too. So going back maybe a couple of years ago, I was coming up as an old school also. So when I resumed fighting and I resumed training for Muay Thai, I would run, but I always had issues with cardio. Like specifically, like during a fight or sparring, I always had, like if I like not finish the fight within the first or second round, going to distance, I would have issues. I would always have cardio issues. I also lifted a lot of weights before. So, it also impacted me for a while, that type of training. So I noticed that I'm running a mile, I'm running 2 miles, I'm running 3 miles, but yet when I'm sparring or where I'm in a gym, I don't see much of improvement in terms of my cardio at all. I mean, none. So I remember going to Vegas and I was training with this amazing trainer, Chaz, who I told him, I said, like, listen, I have an issue. I can hit very, very hard. Technically, I think I'm good. But I said, cardio is an issue. I said, I've been running and nothing is happening. I still suck. So I said, is there anything I can do to improve my cardio? So he said to me, he says, stop running. I'm like, what do you mean stop running? He says, well, running, he says, has a purpose. So running for you, it will make you a better runner. It will make you a faster runner. But in terms of fighting, you hit a few times, you stop. You hit a few times, you stop. It's a completely different dynamic where your breathing goes up and down constantly. So it goes more like sprinting and walking, sprinting and walking, or just hitting the pads, because you hit the pads when you train with a trainer for about, 8, 10, 12 rounds. You hit, you stop, you hit, you stop. It will condition your body a lot better into that. So, the whole point is I stopped running. I stopped running completely, and I was training specifically like that, and it definitely improved. I have a friend of mine who's my neighbor. He runs the New York Marathon. So, he can go for a run 8, 10 miles, absolutely no problem. I'll go for a run after 2 miles, I'll probably collapse and die. It's just like, I'm not good at it. So one day he said to me, you know what, I would like to do a little bit of kickboxing. And Robert, you've done martial arts, so you know what it's like to hit the bag or pads. So he comes to my gym, and we did maybe about 2 rounds of him just hitting and trying. After 2 rounds, he could not breathe. I mean, we're talking about somebody who, if we went running right now, I would collapse and die, and he would just be running for 20 miles, no problem. So I think that culture of running is definitely changing with the introducing of CrossFit, and you have a lot of right now people going into MMA and and fights and UFC and kickboxing and all that. So I think that it's shifting. You will see still people running. I'm not saying that it's going to go away anytime soon, but it's different running. It's just people who enjoy running. And I think, I'm not saying that it's not going to give you fitness. It probably will, but it's a different type of fitness.
There's a book I read, probably the most, I think it's the only book I probably read until it ends. That's not fiction. No, how this business books and stuff. By the way, I totally gave up on fitness business books and stuff. 10 years ago, because you read the first 2 lines and then you're done. It sounds boring. It's repetitive. But anyway, there's a book called The Primal Blueprint, right?
Yeah, by Mark Sisson.
Yeah. Brilliant book. Brilliant.
I remember when his website first launched. I was still in engineering, and I came across that.
The Daily Apple or whatever.
Yeah, Mark's Daily Apple.
Yeah, so Primal Blueprint, he talks, I was telling my wife the same way, because, by the way, you read like 100 things, most of them sound very much the same. I can already tell, if you read the book about eating right and nutrition and health, it's going to tell you to eat clean, eat vegetables, don't eat a lot of shit. Wow, brilliant, got it. But I think the Primal Blueprint, the book, so anyone listening here and didn't read the book should actually check it out. It's actually a good read, because there's logic behind it. You read it, you say, actually, you know what? That fucking makes sense. I get it. I get the story behind it. And it's not like a scientific story. It's actually a story I can tell my kid. It's a very story that makes sense. And when he talks about exercise, so just that was the context that it came back to me, is he talks about, hey, lift heavy things, because that's what the primals did, right? And when he talks about the cardio element, he talks about HIT, right? He says, you sprint for very short distances, because no one ran for like 1 billion miles. When you were not designed to run 1 billion miles. You were either chasing something or you're being chased by something. There was like 2 options, and it was for very short distances, because you were either you managed to catch it or something ate you. That's it. Right. You had no. And he's talking about HIT, which I think, or you walk for long distances, right? That's what he says. And I think that makes perfect sense. Based also on what you said, I think in the podcast, that when I heard you talk about it, Robert, I found out there was times when I tried to, like, I was running more, not very long distances. I totally don't get like these people, like the 40 miles, 50 miles, 20 miles. It just totally sounds boring as fuck. Like, it just sounds so boring. I just want to kill myself. And then the second thing, I hurt my knees. I was really feeling it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound right to do it. Like, my body wasn't designed to go.
Yeah, running is a very technical thing. And I think just for the average person that's trying to hit the pavement and lose weight and improve their fitness, they're going to end up beating the shit out of their ankles, hips, knees, feet, and everything.
I noticed that.
Going back,
about what TJ was saying about running. When I was in Malaysia, when I was in Japan as well, I don't know. I can't quite remember. I went to a gym in Korea, but like, I remember going to Malaysia, and I was sort of like, I didn't come across a supplement store. Looked on Google Maps, I couldn't find, like, they weren't on the corner type thing. Yeah. And then I was talking to one of the taxi drivers, and I was like, and I went. There was a council gym, like a local kind of government type thing, and it just looked filled with treadmills, like just full up. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to go there anyway. And I saw like some weights at the back, and I was like, maybe I can get something from there. And then I went up and asked the receptionist, and they said, "Oh, did you finish the course?" And I'm like, "The hell you mean the course? I got to like run it like a lap or something?" She's like, "No. There's a 2-day course, a health course, and once you do that, you can then use our gym and sign up as a member." And I'm like, "What the?" I was like, what? And she was like, "The next intake is like a few weeks away," and I'm like, "No, I'm clearly not from here, but thank you." And so, but like. At first, I was like, that's just stupid as shit. But then I'm like, God damn, like, it was one of the strangest approaches I had heard. And then I talked to the taxi driver, and I was like, do people here, like, get big? And he's like, you mean, like, eat a lot of food? And I was like, huh. And it slowly dawned on me as you look around. And I asked him, I said, so when you go to the gym, like, for exercise, he's like, oh, yeah, the gym. I was like, well, what do you do? He's like, oh, we run. And, like, he's like, because it gets you fit. Like, and this wasn't a question. This wasn't like, I couldn't convince him otherwise. This was That was it. And because and it's not necessarily a state of your condition or your physical ability, it is a look. If you look like you can run, if you look like, then you're fit, right?
fit.
You may not look like a runner, so you may look like someone who runs a lot and can't run, but you're fit. So it was more of I guess, a status for them. And when I was talking about, don't you want to get big? And he's like looking at me like, the fuck you talking about, bro? And so based on that analogy, and like I saw it in like some other countries as well, like the Middle East, it was like, it's a foreign concept, and it's not that it's like they don't understand it. And it makes sense. When I was in Japan, who the fuck wants to walk around with 50 pounds extra muscle? Like, it's just dumb, right? Like when you think about it, like when I was in Japan and I saw like all these like tiny little people, no one was looking at me like, oh, you're giant. They were like, you're just stupid, Shane. Why are you walking around with all that muscle? What good is that muscle gonna do when it comes to like work or making money? Nothing. It's just like an ego thing, and it's weird when I kind of grasp the concept, and then when you translate that, of course you're not going to see protein powders and mass gainers and test boosters because no one wants them. And like in Japan, they have a lot of energy gels, like carbohydrate gels, squeeze packs, which makes sense because it's a traditionally endurance carbohydrate fueling thing. So I think the culture itself is the market, the supplements are a good reflection of the culture. So it's not necessarily, again, I think bodybuilding is great. I love lifting weights. I love lifting heavy shit, but it is such a strange, I talked to my wife the other day. I said, when you think about it, it's the opposite. It's such a strange way. Like, I want to get bigger arms. So you figure out the least work you need to do, like 10 curls 5 times, right?
Yeah.
Like you figure out the movement is so precise that you couldn't actually possibly do less to build your biceps, kind of thing.
And you know what? I think that's actually very, very interesting what you're saying, because come to think of it, like you actually criticizing something that you enjoy doing because that's what you like. But when you come to when you come to think about it, it's a very interesting subject because you criticizing what you enjoy doing. And I've done it many times myself where I criticize, specifically lifting. Obviously, you can get arthritis and you obviously can beat up your joints. And we've seen what happens to those that lift heavy weights when they reach their 40s and 50s and stuff like that. And it's all true. However, there is something that actually occurred to me recently. We enjoy lifting weights. We enjoy the look. It's nice and it's cool and stuff like that. But right now,
I personally don't know what you're talking about.
No,
TJ doesn't lift ever.
Yeah, he's a STEM junkie.
I just wanted to make sure that you remember. I'll just turn off my brain because it's not relevant.
The thing is that if you think about it, like say for example, you do certain sports, like I don't know, like maybe karate, or you play soccer or rugby or whatever the sport that you're actually playing. When you train, you're continuously training for months, for years at a time. You develop certain skills. So let's say, for example, Michael Jordan, right? I mean, he's past his prime, he's older. But I'm pretty sure if he went on a basketball court right now, he would still be very, very, very impressive because he still has those skills. He obviously is a trained athlete. He's phenomenal. And we don't have to take Michael Jordan. We can take an average basketball player. When he's retired, when he's 50s or 60s, he can still have the skills. If you take, for example, a boxer like Mike Tyson, for example, he can be 60 years old. I don't think that an average person will want to get into a fight with Mike Tyson because the guy will knock you the fuck out so fast, you're not even going to know what hit you. You're going to wake up in a hospital, and that is if you're lucky. And we're talking about a guy in his 50s, even if he was in his 60s. Now, take a bodybuilder, for example. We're talking about like professional bodybuilder, and I'm pretty sure you know where I'm going with this. You cannot, deny the fact that steroids are involved. You can't. Like all those muscles and everything else. You can eat right. You can exercise. You can surprise. You can train hard. So now what happens when a bodybuilder?
TJ, did you know this?
He doesn't even know what protein powders.
Like first, what's next? Like Santa doesn't exist. I mean, seriously, like all these.
So now you have a bodybuilder when he retires. What skills does he have when he comes off steroids? Like you take Dorian Yates right now. Dorian Yates is in his 50s, which is still relatively young man, but you won't even see any, resemblance to the same man. He doesn't have no skills that would say that he's an athlete.
I think
you know what I'm getting at.
I think bodybuilders have a skill set. I feel it's kind of like a ballerina. A ballerina when she's like 15, when she's 60, she might be able to do some, but it's not going to be that useful when you're 60 to do some of that stuff. But I think a bodybuilder skills come in nutrition. Like an actual really good bodybuilder, most professional athletes, most top athletes in all sports don't know. I don't think they know a lot about nutrition.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Compared to a bodybuilder who will tell you, like, shit, I have 60 grams of carbs. It's going to give me a little bit of this. I have 60 grams of this carb. Most athletes, they may have an idea on nutrition, but they won't ever understand the complexity of, chicken versus beef and carbs, rice versus white rice, brown rice. Like that, I believe, is the skill set of a bodybuilder, because guys who live it, even like I know a little bit about nutrition or enough, but if I talk to like a bodybuilder, like those dudes, like, holy shit, like when they tell you the things that they do, like, my peak week, I did like 60 grams carbs this day, 120, and I'm like, and they can break it down like to the number, and it's not even a question about can they do it, it's what they're doing. And then when you realize that, holy shit, 1,500 calories, like it's not asking them whether they can do it, they just know what they need to do. And that aspect, I think, is probably the best skill a bodybuilder has, because again,
when it comes to diet, I think bodybuilders evolved beyond anything, even in the 70s and 80s. They knew a lot more than an average individual knows today.
Physical skills, probably not so much.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, you're going to have a bodybuilder who was a pro 2 or 3 years ago. Now all of a sudden he's off, performance enhancers, and now he's lifting next to you at the gym, and there is literally no difference between the two of you, none.
Yeah.
But when it comes to nutrition, yes, bodybuilders, but also like it's not healthy nutrition; it's nutrition to get in shape. I mean, to lean out.
Yeah, it's. I think you're right. It's not like, but the thing is, I think they've learned. It's kind of like, I don't know, like, if you learn how to launch a rocket, you're probably going to know a lot of things along the way. I think for them, like, they exaggerate it so much, but they can't exaggerate it and know what they're doing without knowing just a shitload of other things. And so while they may not be able to apply what they did to you, they will certainly know, be like, oh, my performance, it wasn't that great. I felt a little bit like this. They would, what carb sources are you having? What kind of protein you're having? What you recover? Like, they will be able to just nail the shit out of it. And that would apply, like, if an average athlete knew these things, I mean, even when I was younger, when I was a swimmer, all we knew was like, oh, you need to get carbs in. No one ever asked what kind. Like, and if you were like, oh, you're feeling sore, more sleep, not more protein, or like, maybe it's faster acting carbs.
Absolutely right.
There's these things that we just weren't told, because in a lot of sports, it's all about train hard, train hard, train hard, where nutrition is helpful, but it's nowhere near the percentage that it is in bodybuilding.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not as important. But I think bodybuilders, like, again,
they were ahead of their time for sure.
I think it's because it makes a big difference. Like other athletes, nutrition's like much smaller.
A lot smaller. We had world kickboxing champion visiting us last year. He's a Ukrainian fighter who lives in Barcelona. He is multiple world champion, and we were talking about him training for a fight. And he told me, he says, you know what? It's interesting. He says, I was getting for a fight every time, and I would use, a specific meal plan and stuff like that. But the last couple of years, a friend of mine from Ukraine, who is a bodybuilder, has been doing my nutrition. And I asked him, I said, and what are you following to prepare for a fight? Because we always said carbs give you energy and stuff like that. So he showed me his meal plan, and there were no carbs. He was on 100% zero carbs. And I said, wow. I said, and you okay with it? He says, my energy has been never better.
Yeah.
He says, I'm 100% okay. And, so all this talk about we need carbs for energy and stuff like that brings me to about 10 years ago, maybe 12. I had Dave Palumbo at my gym doing a seminar. And there are certain things that I agree with Dave and certain things I disagree with Dave. But this particular one I really enjoyed because he was talking about Dave is a big believer in no fat, no carbs, keto to get in shape for a show and stuff like that. And something that he said, it stuck with me because he said he was addressing the audience and he said, guys, you need obviously protein to build muscle. He says that everybody knows that. That's pretty much obvious. He says, then the fats. So you have essential fatty acids. It's called essential, meaning essential that your body needs it. You need the fats, they essential to your body. He says there is no such thing as essential carbs. They just don't exist. You can get away. He says, yeah, well, you will feel like shit probably for a couple of days because your body is restructuring and kind of reforming and, getting used to a different meal plan. He says, but once you're on no carbs, but you have adequate amounts of fats, it will definitely help you with energy, and you will still be in an anabolic state without any need, what they said, like you need carbs. So you can agree or disagree with that. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I've tried it and it does work. I've tried. I'm also very carb sensitive. So the moment I take carbs out of my diet, I lean out, I get in shape, and I still feel it. For some people, they can get away with having shitload of carbs throughout the day, and they still can lean out. It depends on genetics and stuff like that. But the truth is exactly what you, Shane, said. The bodybuilders, the bodybuilding community was so much ahead of its time in terms of like the entire world, the general population, where they knew exactly, what it takes to get in shape. I had a client that I was, doing a diet for years ago, and she actually threatened to sue me. The reason is that I put her on she was very carb sensitive, very overweight. So I gradually took away her carbs. She was leaning out. And then I said, you know what, let's try to go keto, no carbs for for like prolonged period of time. And then we're going to refuel just to make sure that we offset your metabolism. So I noticed that, we've been doing it for and she did blood work and she was healthy. Everything was fine. But then for 2 or 3 weeks, she was, not leaning out at all. In fact, I thought she was gaining weight. Finally, I asked her, I said, are you following my diet exactly as I said? She says, yes, absolutely. I was like, no carbs, you eating this, and that. Yes, absolutely. No issues. I'm very surprised because, maybe you should do another blood work or something like that just to make sure that you're healthy and everything is okay, because it makes no sense. So basically for 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going crazy. Like, why this woman doesn't lean out? Like, we're doing cardio, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like, nothing helps. So finally, she walks into the gym one day and I see she's eating a banana. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Like, it's weird. So I approached her. I said, like, is today your refueling day? She goes, no, it's not today. I'm like, why banana? I said, like, it's not in your meal plan. She says, no, it is. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm like, there are no carbs in your diet. She says, I don't eat carbs. I'm like, banana? She goes to me, well, that doesn't count. I'm like, what do you mean? She says, because it's fruit. She says, fruits, unlimited, that's fine because it's healthy for you. I said, hold on a second. So you've been eating fruit? She says, yeah, I love fruit. So basically she was eating fruit nonstop, all the fructose and stuff like that. So that just goes again, like a bodybuilder or somebody follows the lifestyle of a bodybuilder would never do that. They know, no carbs, no fruit.
Yeah, when I was brought up as a swimmer, that was what our coaches told us. They said, I'll be still hungry after lunch. And they'd be like, have some fruit. Like they made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal. And I used to throw back like 8 bananas a day when I was a young swimmer because that was all we were allowed to eat after we were still hungry. But again, the bodybuilder, just because it's one of those things that helps them grow, helps them lean out, and it's like you can't be a bodybuilder without it. I think it's just one of those things that they've become like just fucking next level on compared to any other sport. that may not rely on nutrition so much, but now they're slowly realizing that, like, those top athletes are like, shit, it may not make up a big percentage, but I need it.
Yeah, I think the nutrition landscape is definitely in constant flux, and even just at the college level and the NFL level of sports, it's so much more advanced than it was, I mean, shit, even 10 years ago, because they've got actual meal plans and they've got registered dietitians working, at least with, you know, like the Div 1 schools. I don't know if the Division 2 and 3 schools have that.
But then at the end of the day, when you actually, Robert, look at what people recommend, it's the same shit all the time. I mean, unless you're optimizing the last 5% for like real athletes. I'm telling you, like every time someone says, I got this, there's this guy on YouTube, he gives lecture. I said, let me guess. Don't eat shit. Eat a lot of greens. Yeah. Eat some protein. And don't eat simple carbs. Only let me guess. Is that what he said? Yeah, plus whatever. Like that beans can kill you. But at the end of the day, it's like the 5% that you optimize for. Okay.
Right.
Once you put that aside, dude, just don't eat shit. Here's my dietitian recommendation for you. Just don't eat shit. Right?
Don't eat shit from the founder of Dog Shit
People
Labs.
like shortcuts. The problem is people want the system and they need shortcuts, right? No, they like shortcuts. They want this thing that, like, intermittent fasting. They need something that will give them hope because they want a shortcut. They want a shortcut. Oh no, my metabolism, I feel better. It's all bullshit. At the end of the day, it's all bullshit, really. Like, it optimizes the last 2-3%. It's like, if you want to lose, here's like, if you stop eating, you lose weight. Like, I haven't met a survivor of a refugee camp that was obese. He was anorexic as fuck because he didn't eat, right? Like, if you came out of a concentration camp, you were really skinny. There's no obese people in a fucking concentration camp. So stop eating.
If they were, they'd be in trouble.
Yeah. Someone would eat them. No, seriously. Like, it's like just so simple, right? Stop eating shit. Yeah. People want shortcuts. Like, it's literally stay under 2,000 calories if you're like a normal human being. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Seriously. Like, if you're in the 0.001% that has a thyroid, whatever, yeah, okay, fine. Go see a doctor. But other than that, you're just a fat fuck that likes to eat. Just seriously.
That brings us full circle to why supplements are so successsul. People are looking for that one thing that's going to make everything better. They don't. That's
the thing,
sell
though.
Their grandma. Yeah,
that's like I said, like with actual like bodybuilding techniques. It's like, I was watching one of these obstacle course TV shows, and these guys were doing like 1-arm pull-ups, right, and leaping, and like he was like going for a lot of them were rock climbers, and I'm like, holy shit. Right. And you see their like their shoulder muscles are so developed.
Crazy.
And the thing is, I was like, man, these guys actually built their muscles the real way. Whereas I got into the gym and I'm trying to do like a 100-pound dumbbell shoulder press. Like, but my shoulders.
You see the quads on soccer players, right? Look at the quads of soccer players.
That's what I'm saying.
The guys never were on a leg press, but you see their quads.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, right? and the gym technique is like the shortcut, right? Like,
right. No, I like what you said to your wife.
We're trying to build those rock climber shoulders. But
we're trying the whole industry
by doing shoulder presses.
Right.
And it's like, you're right. It's a shortcut type thing, and then like So when someone says, add this to your supplement stack, you get more energy, you'll be like, well, shit. I don't have to like, train my energy system. I don't have to like go out and pull out the coffee.
Think about it. There's a whole industry around you getting out of like 1 hour of lifting for like 20 minutes out of it. And there's a recovery industry. Poor guy, you need to recover. I'm telling you, it's like,
and again,
it's hilarious.
Those rock climbers train like they were sort of, we go rock climbing for hours. I'm going like 45 minutes a day trying to build his shoulders, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm doing
I agree. I agree.
Not functional, but I want to look like, I want to have.
You want to look the part. That's all that matters, man. We just want to look the part. We don't actually want to be able to do anything in life.
Exactly. Bodybuilding, the concept of bodybuilding and all that stuff, by definition almost, is not like if you think where it started, it wasn't about fitness. It was really about what it looks like. And also, if you look at a bodybuilding show, they don't measure your fitness; they measure literally how you look like.
Aesthetics.
There's zero concept of fitness, and
Right.
so I think that assuming. I totally get the diet expertise, and actually, Shane, I think you brought up a great point around like that is an expertise because you can optimize at 1%, whatever. But if you look at what this shit is all about, it's all about looks, right?
Yeah.
They don't say, bro, do you even fit, right? They say, bro, do you even lift? Because you don't look like you lift. But they don't say like, oh, you're healthy. Oh, fuck, he's healthy. Forget if he lifts or not. It doesn't. It's just, that's the industry. It's all about, it's aesthetics. It's fine, right? It's coming back to cosmetics. It's cosmetics and bodybuilding. That's the two most vain industries.
45 minutes, 60 minutes a day than like try and build up the, an
extra 3 hours.
Right. Yeah, no. 45 minutes.
Strongman lifting,
Shortcut.
pushing cars.
Shortcut. Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I think we'll end things there for this session. That was a good positive note. We didn't get too much of a shitstorm on anything, so I think this will be the cut for the day. Thank you as always for making your time.
By the way, you know what I noticed, Robert? We always end when I totally can't hold it anymore and I have to pee. It's happening again. Like I'm like literally at 100% capacity right now.
God-given gift, man. I'm just you and I've got that Jedi mind meld going. We're locked in.
You and my blabber.
There we go. All right, gents. Well, have a great rest of the weekend. Okay. Stay safe out there.
Robert, stop getting angry. Robert, seriously.
We'll be in touch.
Take some chill pill.
Take care, guys. Have a great weekend.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.